listen, if anything were fair here, right down the line, right down the middle. So we ripped the Mets for losing 2 out of 3 to the Angels in Anaheim. Yankees can't lose 2 out of 3 to the Angels in the Bronx, and they just did. They just did. And what it did was it exposes what could be a fatal flaw in this team. Right now, of their 5 pitchers, 2 of them are not pitching well, and they have not pitched well for a long time. Nestor Cortez gave up 6 runs yesterday in under 5 innings. And Marcus Stroman, who essentially had a start skipped so he could have more bullpen sessions to work out his issues, he's going to start on Sunday. Both of them have not pitched well. So that leaves you with 3 pitchers that you could depend on. Garrett Cole, who still, I don't think, is to the level of Garrett Cole last year. Luis Gil, who's been great. And Carlos Rodon, who since that start in Boston has been money. So when you have 2 pitchers in your starting 5 that can't win games and can't go deep and make you use your bullpen to get 15 to 18 outs, that means that the other 3 pitchers have to be great every time they take the ball down in order for you to play 600 ball. If one of them falters, which is very reasonable that one will falter, all of a sudden you're playing 400 ball, that's not good enough. So I don't know what's happened with Nestor Cortez. And I don't know what's happened with Stroman. But if we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. And in the case of Stroman, he was an all-star last year with the Cubs. And in the second half of the season, he completely was bad.
Yeah.
The Yankees signed him to essentially a 3-year deal. He was great in the first half of the season. Since then, it's not so good. He's an older pitcher. There's been a drop in velocity, which Aaron Boone said he's not concerned about. The sinker is not sinking. Maybe it's a mechanical thing. The guy's a hard worker. He's a great athlete. But again, he's not the biggest dude, and he's getting older. Right. So you wonder, Don, moving forward, are the Yankees going to be able to finish first in the American League East if 2 of their 5 starters are not viable starters for them? Because not only do you lose those games, Don, but you burn out your bullpen in the days that those guys pitch, and that is huge.
Right, and you wonder, was this not a concern at the deadline? Or did this kind of creep up on Cashman because they didn't really seem like they were in the market for a starting pitcher?
Well, they tried to get Flaherty, and they didn't like his medicals.
Right. Well, and so then that's it. But there's other starting pitchers they might have been able to go out and get. Now, you do get Clark Schmidt back, but here's another concern. You don't have a ton of postseason experience. Right, outside of Cole,
right.
Rodon's only had 2 2/3 innings of postseason experience with the White Sox a couple of years ago, so he's kind of going in with almost 0 experience. And then if Stroman's not going to give you anything, if Cortez isn't going to give you anything, I mean that's a bit of an issue. You're right, but I think they'll make the postseason. But now winning the division with a compromised starting rotation, that's a bit of an issue. Cortez, his problem looked like it was only on the road. Now it's spilled to home, and as you said, outlining the last 4 starts, not very good, but almost a 10 under an average. So
yeah, that's like 5 starts.
Not trending in the right direction.
5 starts of a 10.0 ERA.
Yeah. That's not good.
And then Stroman, who said in the paper today, it's only been a couple of starts. It's been longer than that. I'm not saying that he's pitched terribly, but he's not pitching as well as he did at the beginning of the year, and it's a drain on the bullpen. Now, one of these guys is going to lose their job. They're going to go in the bullpen. When Clark Schmidt comes back at the end of the month, maybe that's what the Yankees were thinking. And I know that they were concerned about Jack Flaherty's back. The Dodgers weren't. So, I mean, you need to add a starter. And maybe in their mind they're saying, well, the starter that we're adding is Clark Schmidt, who pitched great before he got hurt. But right now, this is an issue. And another thing that's an issue, Don, they've not been winning at home.
No.
And they don't win against teams that are bad, and they don't win against left-handed starting pitching. And the Orioles have 2 left-handers in their bullpen. in their rotation. Any team that's going to play the Yankees going to throw left-handers at them. The Yankees, Don, against left-handed starting pitching, they're 12-16. It's one of the worst records in baseball. And I don't get it because Soto is great against lefty pitching, and you would think that Judge and Stanton and Torres and Volpe would be great against lefty pitching. They have not been able to do it against lefty starters. That's another concern.
It's probably just one of those things. And also, the last 5 outings for Stroman, going back to the Cincinnati game back in early on July 1st.
Right.
5 innings, 5 earned runs. 4 1/3 innings against Tampa. He left that game early.
How many runs in that one?
Well, he only allowed the 1 run, but he walked 2. But he only went 4 1/3. I don't remember the circumstances of why he only lasted 4 1/3.
I think he threw a lot of pitches.
Then the other game against Tampa, he went 5 1/3, 5 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned.
That's not awful.
That's okay, not great. The Boston game, he was gone 3 1/3, 9 hits, 5 runs, and then the game against Toronto, 8 hits, 7 earned runs. He could say it's only been a couple of starts. Yeah, I guess if you say dating back to that second Tampa game, but overall he hasn't pitched in deep in only one time he's pitched into the 6th inning, has not pitched into the 7th. So when he pitches, you're guaranteed to go 9 if not 12 outs to go into your bullpen. But all this said, Michael, Baltimore, another opportunity to gain a game on the Yankees.
And they lose.
They had a valiant comeback, but lost to Toronto. So they lost a series against the lousy Blue Jays. So, yeah, the Yankees have their flaws, but who doesn't? You said yesterday, Baltimore's probably the toughest team they're going to have to face. And then you got Houston because of the history. But we're not even guaranteed they're making the playoffs, although they're in first place right now. But if Baltimore's your biggest fear, Michael, they're flawed too. Right? The Texas Rangers are the defending champions. You're going to see them this weekend. It's 6-7 games under 500. Seattle can't hit. I don't believe in any of the teams in the Central. The Guardians are losing again today to the Twins, and nobody fears the Twins. So with all these problems, Michael, who's going to take advantage of it?
And the Yankees have an opportunity, but these doubleheaders are not helping. Doubleheader you had, you're forced to call up Will Warren. Now you have another doubleheader tomorrow. So Rodon was scheduled to pitch tonight, so he's going to pitch tomorrow. And then Cole's going to pitch one of the games, and then Stroman. Now, you do have an off day on Monday, so any chance or desire that you had to give people an extra day off, those off days don't mean anything now. Do you have to call somebody else up to fill a spot, and would that be Will Warren again? Yeah. These are things to worry about just a little bit.
Yeah, again, but to just play devil's advocate, Michael, you do have days coming up off, right? You got off on Monday, and I believe you got off on Thursday.
No.
You got right?
No. You have 3 games in Chicago and 3 games in Detroit after Monday being off.
Why am I looking at Thursday? I'm looking at the NMLB schedule, Thursday, August 15th. Why do I not see the Yankees scheduled to play?
I'm pretty sure they have to have a 3-game series in Chicago.
They're off, Michael. They play Monday. They're off Thursday.
Oh, okay, my bad. Yeah.
Okay, so, but the White Sox, Tigers, I mean, and I think these are legitimate concerns, especially once you get to the playoffs. But, and you did lose 2 out of 3 to the Anaheim Angels, but the Angels they're at least a spunky team, Texas too, but the White Sox are god-awful. The White Sox might break the record for the most losses in a season. Detroit's no good. I really, what American League team is going to take advantage of that? And if you're going to tell me Baltimore, I guess I'll buy into that. But Baltimore hasn't been able to take advantage when the Yankees were terrible a few weeks ago. This is an Oriole team that should have a 6-7 game lead in this division. And they've been struggling just like the Yankees have. So I don't know who is going to take advantage of this Yankee play. They're going to go to the playoffs, and maybe it'll be a problem winning the division, but Baltimore's got to take advantage. They should have been mopping up on the Blue Jays and didn't. And they've got their issues with their rotation. Who do they have coming up this weekend? The Orioles. Do you know? Tampa. Is that any different than losing to the Toronto Blue Jays? So I don't know. Michael is not there, so we'll continue with your phone calls at 1-800-919-3776. I understand everything Michael is saying, but who is taking advantage of it? Now, once you get to the playoffs, if you're going to be a team that's limited with your rotation and can't win at home, I mean, these are things that might get exposed. But again, who's going to expose them outside of that whole Houston thing? Because they're much better than when the Yankees played them earlier in the season, and if they end up winning the West, which I think they're very capable of doing. But there's still a scenario where the Astros don't make the playoffs. Because if they don't win the West, then they're just a squirrel trying to get the nut like everybody else for the wild card. All right, let's go to Bobby in Belmore. You're on ESPN New York. What's up, Bobby?
Hi, how you doing, guys? So before I get to the Yankee and Mets, quick hi, Kevin Durant. Isaiah didn't join Bird. Jordan didn't join Isaiah. Ewing didn't join Jordan. I mean, this is where it stems from when he was down 3-1 in that series the previous year, and he joined Golden State the year after. He blew the 3-1 lead up to Golden State when he was on the Thunder and left Westbrook stranded. So that's where it's just all this insecurity. He got abused for that. Now let me get to the Yankees and Mets. The Yankees got 4 starters between a 4 and 5 ERA. Cole being the worst at a 5 ERA. So I agree with you. I thought they should have made a move at the deadline. I know you talked about Rodin, but you really trust Rodin not to lose in a big spot. I know he's pitching better. And Cole, I thought they brought him up a little bit too quickly, and I don't know if that affected him, but he hasn't been the same.
I think his earned run average being as high as it is because of the injury. I think Cole's the least of your issues.
Well, 12 runs against the Mets in 12 innings. That was.
But he doesn't have to play the Mets unless they meet in the World Series. The Mets happen to be a thing for him, for whatever, even going back to his National League days. So, again, I think with all the issues, Bobby, Cole's the least of them in your rotation.
Now, let me get to the Mets, with you specifically, Don. Alonso, I know people think I'm nuts, but I thought they should have traded him. He's under 200 here with runners in scoring position. Hasn't really done much during this win streak. They could have gone 3 or 4 rotation guys, especially without Senga. I thought they should have traded him. I may sound crazy, but, I know they couldn't get much. He's a rental.
Well,
but
there you go.
I
don't know. Bobby, I don't know. I don't know what they could have gotten for him. Honestly, you're talking about a guy that's batting .240, that at the trade deadline was hovering around 20 home runs, and he's in his walk year. So I get what you're saying, Bobby, because he really did not contribute much to the Mets' turnaround. It was all Lindor. But I think they were two things that worked against Alonso getting dealt. Number one, you weren't going to get what you think for him, because he's in his walk year and he wasn't having that great of a season, so nobody was going to give you a stud starter, a major prospect for him, so that probably didn't make it worth it. And the other thing is, and maybe we see it now with the 2 home runs yesterday in Colorado, that maybe he could get hot. We've seen that before. And if he gets hot here, I've been saying it, he can flip the script on this entire 2024 season. If he has a hot August and September and gets this team into the postseason, nobody's going to care what he did the first 3-4 months of the season. They're not going to care. And he had a big game last night, couple of home runs. We'll see what he ends up doing this weekend in Seattle, and let's see. But I understand your logic. We discussed it before the deadline. Would they move him? But those are clearly the reasons why they weren't going to do it. 1-800-919-3776. Let's go up to Connecticut, talk to Matthew. You're on ESPN New York.
Hey, Don, how are you?
Good.
I know you lost Michael there, so I'll tell you. Michael said a lot of things that were actually really correct.
Okay.
The last 5 out of the 6 games, the Yankees were down a lot of runs. And the one thing that really ticked me off, too, after the game yesterday is that Boone said that the weather might have had something to do with it, which I completely disagree. I mean, the Angels had no problem with, the weather. So, I mean, how could the Yankees possibly?
No, they should.
I don't
mean, if anything, a Southern California team coming to play. I mean, the Yankees are used to that kind of weather, like in April, and that. No, but Matthew, I'll ask you the same question I asked Michael. What team in the American League is going to take advantage of this?
Probably none. But what I can probably tell you is that the Red Sox will. I mean, they're the only team right now that is very consistent. I mean, they continuously keep winning. I wish the Yankees could do that right now.
Well, to be fair, they just did. All right, the Yankees kind of got off the mat a bit, so let's not completely freak out about the way they're playing. They did drop a series, but there were. I don't want to sound like Aaron Boone, and thank you for the phone call. There are extenuating circumstances to this. You had to play a doubleheader. Your pitching rotation's a bit of a mess right now. I think the Angels are a little spunky. They just came off taking 2 out of 3 from the Met. I am not going to say that the Yankees, Michael, are in the free fall that they were in like last month. I think they are playing better, and we'll see if there's anybody that could take advantage of this pitching situation right now. But I'm not going to freak out completely on the way they're playing. I'm not going to say it's a nitpick, but I do think they could play better. But Baltimore has blown any opportunity to take advantage of this. And I like the Red Sox a lot, but they're still 5.5 games back. They're still, 4 back in the loss column. Let's see. Let's see if the Red Sox can take advantage of it.
And what we do when we examine the Yankees, we're examining a team that's expected to win a World Series. So you're looking at things that might stop them from doing that. And, the ineffectiveness of Stroman and the ineffectiveness of Nestor Cortez, it's impactful. And also you're putting a lot of pressure on a rookie in Luis Gil. And although I'm a fan of Carlos Rodon, and I think he if the Yankees end up doing important things, what he did that Sunday night against Boston is going to be one of the biggest starts of the year. I think he's shown a power and an ability to handle pressure, and let's see how he does. But Garrett Cole's still all the way back to the Cy Young form. So you've got a lot of question marks in your pitching staff, and all of a sudden, a guy like Clark Schmidt becomes really, really important.
But I think ultimately, Michael, unless you're going to tell me Baltimore is going to take advantage, my concern would be coming in a best-of-5 series, a best-of-7 series. Then I'd be a little bit concerned because that's where these big teams get picked off if they don't get the pitching. That's where you see the upsets, and that's where it probably would concern me. I don't know if this is going to be an issue that's going to keep them out of maybe winning the division, but not out of the playoffs.
Well, that's the Pinstripe Report brought to you by Samwell Institute for Pain Management. For pain-free life, visit SamwellPain.com today. Also, what I'd like to tell you about, because I'm into these sort of things, Don, you know it, is I want to tell you about Inside the Numbers, brought to you by Eisner Amper.
Okay.
With the Yankees' loss yesterday, Mark, the first time they've lost consecutive games since a 3-game losing streak, July 23rd through the 26th. That's Inside the Numbers, brought to you by Eisner Amper, a leading business advisory firm, helping clients transform their companies, build capital, innovate processes, and mitigate risk. Make Eisner Amper part of your solution. Learn more at EisnerAmper.com today. Let's go to the phones, 1-800-919-3776. Let's go to Kurt in Port Washington. Kurt.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. We've spoken many times. Don, welcome back.
Thank you.
I have a question about first Verdugo, but my second question is actually something I'm very interested in expressing. Is the last time I saw a great left fielder was Brett Gardner.
Okay.
Now they have Verdugo, and when he gets hot, he can carry a team. Do you think the Yankees will re-sign him?
No.
You don't think so?
The only way that it would be considered is if they don't get Soto. If they don't get Soto back, well, Jason Dominguez is going to be part of their outfield, and they'll have another spot. And, you just move Judge to right. Maybe you could bring back Verdugo. But my guess, Kurt, is that no Verdugo, no Rizzo, no Torres. I think it'd be tough for them to even bring back Clay Holmes. So everybody that's on the last year of a contract, they'll replace with younger, less expensive pieces, especially if they have to go the extra mile to get Soto. But one thing, Kurt, and I thank you for the phone call. Carry a team, that's a little strong. I mean, he's a really good left fielder. He's hitting in 230s. And if he gets hot, he's not the type that's going to get hot to carry a team. He's the type that's going to get hot that can help a team win. Right. Carry a team, there's 2 guys on this team that could carry a team. Judge and Soto. That's it. Let's go to Rich in Buffalo. Rich.
Michael, I got a complaint.
Okay.
Your solo show the other day was phenomenal. We got to talk baseball, and you defended Gleyber Torres. You went into that whole thing. The first game of the doubleheader the other day, Soto, and I love the guy, hit 4 ground balls in the infield and literally jogged down the first base. That's Juan Soto. Okay. Verdugo did the same thing, and he never let go of his bat. So, and nothing was said about that. So they decided to humiliate Torres, but nobody even made a comment, not even you on the show while you were calling the game, about them jogging down the line. So I think that Booman did not make that decision against Torres the other day. I think that came from upstairs, and it makes me sick that players will not run the ball out to first base.
I
damn
don't
it.
think, you know what, Rich? I don't think that managers have a real issue with it. I mean, you heard when we had Girardi on, he did the games with me this weekend, or past weekend. You know, he said guys are going to pick and choose when they hustle down to first base. They're going to save themselves. Now, I don't understand. Derek Jeter, for 20 years of a career, ran down to first base hard all the time. It shouldn't be that difficult. The old coach, Frank Howard, used to say, running hard 90 feet 4 times a day is not a tough way to make a living. But it's now become an accepted fact. Girardi allowed Cano to do it all the time. And I think it's unfair what you're saying about Soto. Soto runs hard to first base when he thinks that he has a chance to get a base hit. If it's a standard ground ball, like most of the players, he just doesn't. And I think that Verdugo's dealing with some leg issues, so he's going to protect himself when there's a ground ball that he thinks is a sure out. But if you really felt, Don, that the benching of Torres was going to get the attention of everybody else and get them to start flying around the bases or not looking at home runs, the very next game after Torres was benched, Soto hit a ball at the top of the wall in left field that ended up bounding into the bullpen for a home run. He stood and watched it. If it had bounded back onto the field, he would have had a hustle to get to second base. It impacts no one. That's why I felt a little badly for Gleyber Torres. Why him? Why then? And what impact did you think it would have? Maybe it has an impact on Gleyber Torres. No one else, it made a dent.
No, because it was a message to a guy that's underachieved. I mean, you're not going to touch the superstar and let him do what he wants to do. But when you're underachieving the way Gleyber has, and also it wasn't one isolated incident, it's happened quite a few times with him not hustling, that maybe Boone just had enough. But that's the way life is. Of course, Soto is going to be held to a different standard because he brings it every day with his batting average and his home runs and all that. Gleyber does not. So Glaber's not going to get the benefit of the doubt. But, you know, these callers who make it see, I remember distinctly, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, Reggie Jackson would ground to second base and immediately turn to the dugout. he was not hustling down the first base line.
Who's one of the great...
This is 40 years ago.
Don, who's one of the great hustle and grinded guys that the Yankees have ever had? I do games with them. Paul O'Neill.
Oh, Paul O'Neill.
He did the same thing. People, you know what? I think a guy like Rich reads a guy like Musnick today in the Post, and Musnick saying that we don't... Listen, I do the play-by-play. Okay, very rarely do I give opinions on the radio. I give them here. I don't give opinions on the play-by-play on TV. That's up for the analyst to do. If they don't want to bring it up, they don't want to bring it up. I bring it up every now and then. I'm not going to bring it up and be the run cop every time somebody doesn't run hard to first base. If Aaron Boone doesn't care, then Michael Kay doesn't have to completely pound it home every single time somebody jogs to first base. Sorry, that's the way the game is now. I know it's awful, but that's the way the game is, Don.
And the idea that it's a new thing. Like I said, Reggie did it. It's been going on forever. And Paul O'Neill did it. But the reason why everybody loves Paul didn't do it out of laziness. Paul did it out of frustration. So the fans loved that. Like, he would be so mad at himself that he would, like, go to the dugout because he just was so furious, and fans loved that because they love Paul. But it bothers me sometimes too, Michael. But in the era of load management and everybody worried about how many innings and how many ups they have and all that, that I'm sure a manager's not going to freak out on an automatic out if their guy doesn't bust it down the line.
Oh, you know what? You
Derek
just
Jeter,
brought up
there's
something.
100 players that don't do it.
You just brought up something that jogged something in my head. What would you rather, everybody out there? What would you rather? A guy jogging down to first and playing the game, or a guy in the NBA having load management not playing at all? What would you rather? Because the guy that's jogging might hit a home run, might make a play in the field. But the guy who's having load management, you don't even get to see him play. He doesn't even come off the bench, and you paid a ticket to see him. Listen, there's no good answer other than they should play hard all the time and run hard to first base all the time. But it doesn't happen. And to put it on the media to call it out, because all the radio and TV columnists that write, why isn't it brought up by Gary Cohen? Why isn't it brought up by Michael Kay? Why isn't it brought up by the beat writers on your paper? Do they write, by the way, 4 ground balls today by Verdugo, didn't run hard? I never see it, ever. But it's left to the broadcasters to call it out when the managers don't care. I mean, get a grip. Get a grip.